Hi everyone, it's Rachel and Anthony.
Hello.
From Don't Crop Me Now. And today we are going to pick our massive onions. So as you can see, I'm actually really pleased with this onion crop. We put another video on, if you will link that in the comments, about how we grow these onions to this really good size for cooking. There's a few different varieties and there's some good tips in that video. We've actually had after the really hot weather, we had a period for a couple of weeks of quite a bit of rain here in Manchester, and then the last week we've had zero rain and we've just been back into another heat wave. This last couple of days it's been between probably about 30 to maybe even 34 degrees here, degrees C here again in Manchester, which means that it's been a perfect time to pick these onions. If you are thinking about when should I pick my onions, ideally you want to do it where you've had a bit of hot weather. If you pick your onions when it is very wet, the onions themselves will be the bulbs will be very full of water, and that increases the chance of them not drying out properly, curing, and therefore rotting in storage. So these ones hopefully should be really dry now, and what we will do is we're going to pick these, we're going to put them in the polytunnel just for probably a week or so to let them completely cure off. If we have a look at some of the onions, as you can see, some of them have really started to die down here, and the top leaves are starting to go a bit crispy. That's really what you want. You want all the green to disappear, and we will allow that to happen in our polytunnel. The weather can be quite predictable here in Manchester. This very hot weather is pretty unusual at this time of year, and by putting them in the polytunnel, it's not actually that hot in there compared to a greenhouse, and it will allow them to cure out of the wet weather. So we are growing a few different varieties of onions, and we're going to show you how we pick these to try and not damage the roots and hopefully show you the condition of the roots. We don't tend to have too much problem with white rot, luckily, on this plot, which is a big problem if you're wanting to grow onions for storage. If we have a look at the varieties that we're growing, Anthony pans down, these ones that are slightly smaller, if I put my hand in this trialing, you see they're not actually that small. These are the Globo onions. And these are the onions that we tend to grow for our general culinary purposes, and they tend to grow pretty big for us anyway. And these larger ones that I've got around me here and at the back are the exhibition type onions. So we've grown these outside. It's just a little bit of an experiment. We've got exhibition giant, and at the back the really big ones are actually Peter Glazebrook seed, who is the chap who has got many records for growing very large onions. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to lift one onion. I tend to use a fork just to loosen underneath. And then as we pull the onion out, you will see that the roots look really healthy. They're definitely still alive there. They're not crispy dry. These ones will need to dry off. What I tend to do is just give them a good shake like this to get any of the soil or the compost mulch we put out of the top, and as you can see, that is a beautiful massive onion. So we've harvested all the onions out of this bed, and this is a typical onion. So you can see they are absolutely huge, and they feel really good actually. They feel like they're nice and firm and definitely dried quite well so far. So we'll leave these a bit to cure. So this full wagon load of onions came from this one bed, which is 10 by 4 foot. So quite a lot of people, I've heard it said quite a few times, is it worth growing onions? Aren't they a cheap crop to buy? I mean, in all honesty, you can probably argue that with most vegetables, potentially not with what's happening with the food crisis globally, but you know, certainly, you know, they're not the most expensive. But even one of those, I don't know how much that weighs. Do you reckon at least a kilo, Anthony?
Not sure.
So that's like over £1. Like if you bought that as an organic onion from a market, you probably pay a lot more than that. And if you see how many we've got for the space that we're using, I actually think it's a lot more cost efficient crop to grow than some other things that we do grow, like sweet corn, where we've got a right disaster there where the squirrels have eaten it all. So I would say it's a pretty good crop to grow. We've just got a few other beds to pick. They haven't got the same amount as this, probably about half again, I'd say, and we'll put them in the polytunnel. And here's our second bed of onions. As you can see, it's only about half of the bed. The majority of these are Globo onions, and a few of the larger ones at the back are Kelsey, and let's pick them in the same way. So after harvesting that bed, we did find one onion that I like to show you here that has got a little bit of what they call white rot. That onion actually been growing right underneath this courgette plant here, which we planted a little bit too close, and that's probably the reason that it's kept that moisture in underneath those leaves, and it's just created those conditions. So if you do get any onions that look like this, do not put them into storage. They will just rot, and also try and keep them away from your other onions because potentially you can pass the infection on. I wouldn't put that on the compost either. What you can do, the majority of that onion is absolutely fine. There's nothing to stop you just chopping that bit off the onion and eating the rest of the onion. So I think we'll take that home tonight. It's actually really starting to heat up again here in Manchester, but hopefully behind me you can see our main crop onions. We have already grown some overwintering onions which we've harvested and we've eaten a lot of. Most of them are gone now really, but these are the ones that we will store and keep and use throughout the winter into next spring. As you can see, you've got the larger ones on the left and the ones that are still pretty large, good size onions on the right. But talking about size, this is actually our main crop shallot harvest. So yes, this actually is a shallot, which in itself is just completely crazy. So it's been a brilliant year for onions here in South Manchester at Don't Crop Me Now. And if you've enjoyed the video, please like, comment and subscribe. It only takes a minute, but it will really help our channel. Take care everyone, bye.
Bye.